had this one done.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this hearing to order and note for the record that all members of the Town Council are present. Our Town Manager, Cliff Gravier, is also here, our Assistant Town Manager, Terry Tiemann, our Town Clerk, Molly Daisy, and our IT Director, Will Wharton. The purpose of this hearing is to receive comments on the following. An ordinance to amend Appendix 4 of the Bethany Beach Non-Residential Design Review Guidelines by amending the membership of the Non-Residential Design Review Committee by requiring it to consist of a member of the Town Council in place of the Town Council's liaison on the Planning Commission. Second, an ordinance to amend Section 425-2 by adding the terms natural area and pervious materials in the definition section and word usage in Section 425-2. And third, an ordinance to amend Section 425-27 by adding an additional paragraph to address ground covering restrictions permitted on residential lots. The proposed ordinances were and are available for inspection in Town Hall Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. except on scheduled holidays, and they are also available on the town's website, www.townofbethanybeach.com. This hearing was advertised as follows. It was posted on the town's website starting on March 29th, 2022. It was published in the News Journal newspaper on March 29th, 2022, and the Cape Gazette on the same date, March 29th. And it was also posted on the town's bulletin boards outside of Town Hall and in the post office. The town also notified everyone on the town's listserv about the hearing and included a copy of the amendments. So the hearing and the amendments have been widely circulated. Now, before Mr. Edmondson gives some background and explains the amendments for the benefit of those who are here or who are listening, I'd like to go over some of the ground rules. First, if anyone wishes to provide oral comments, please sign in on the sheet in the back of the room, because that will be what we use we'll call people in the order in which they're signed in. When your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name and your Bethany Beach address. Please speak clearly into the microphone since the hearing is being live streamed and recorded. Your oral comments will be made part of the record. If you also have written comments, please give a copy to our town clerk. Following your comments, any member of the council or the town staff may ask questions to clarify your testimony. This is not a deliberation today, it's just to receive testimony and to clarify anything that has been said if it's not clear. After all persons desiring to be heard have had an opportunity to speak at this hearing, the hearing will be closed. Although the hearing is closed, the record will remain open to receive email or written comments until May 15th, 2022. The town has already received a number of email comments, and these will be made part of the record. Email comments may be sent to admin@townofbethanybeach.com, and written comments may be mailed to the town at 214 Garfield Parkway, Bethany Beach, Delaware 19930, or you can drop them off at the front desk there. It's council's policy to allow time for council to review all comments received and give due consideration before discussing and voting on these matters. If the comments received raise additional issues, the council may vote to reopen the record and seek additional information or input before final consideration and vote. So, Mr. Edmondson, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with the ordinance to amend Appendix 4, the Bethany Beach Non-Residential Design Review Guidelines, and the section on the members of that committee. It became obvious a month or so ago that, kind of buried in the language of that, of the makeup of that committee, that it was requiring the liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission to sit on the Non-Residential Design Review Committee. This meant that Lou Kilmer, our vice mayor, would have to step down from the committee, and I would have to take over that position. It also became obvious at that point that it wasn't super necessary to have our liaison to the Planning Commission sit on the Non-Residential Design Review Committee, because the chairperson of the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as our building inspector, who both sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission, also sit on the Non-Residential Design Review Committee. So this move is simply to move that any member of the town council could sit on that committee, rather than specifically the town council's liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do we need to pause for comments on that, or just move forward onto the?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the next two ordinances, which are part and parcel of each other, 425-2 and 425-27. 425-2 adds definitions that are used in section 425-27. So I'll start with 425-27. Over the course of the last year and a half, the Planning and Zoning Commission has been developing the new comprehensive plan for the town for the next 10 years. In part of that, we are looking at the vision for the future of the town of Bethany Beach, and going through everything, we realized that currently there is no restriction on the amount of paved area on any given residential lot. What this means under the current code is that a homeowner could, and they have, paved 100% of their lot outside of their house. We also know that there are ongoing issues with nuisance flooding throughout the town that will only become worse over the years. So what we're looking to do is change the code to require a minimum amount of natural area. What that would mean is mulched or vegetated areas, and restrict, as much as practical, the amount of impervious paving on any given residential lot. So this ordinance would require homeowners to, any pavement, to be, any driveways or walkways, to be any number of pervious paving material. So that would be gravel, clamshells, stone, pervious pavers when installed properly per the manufacturer's written specifications, or pervious paving like the town has used on Atlantic Avenue, on the south side of Atlantic Avenue, or pervious concrete. This would not require you to replace your current driveways or pathways with pervious paving. If you have impervious surfaces on your lot, they are grandfathered. However, if you were to replace them 50% or more, you would be required to put new pervious paving down at that point. So this is not intended to have people throughout the town ripping up their current driveways and walkways. It is intended to ensure that new paving is more sustainable. It will allow more infiltration of rainwater, so it should help to reduce nuisance flooding from rain events. So to be clear, this won't help in any way with rising water from flood events, but it will help to ensure that runoff is not directed straight into our stormwater system and essentially straight into our back bays. So it's intended to both improve the or limit how much runoff is coming from residential lots, and to improve water quality throughout the town.
Thank you, Mr. Edmondson. Do we have the list? Okay, we have 3 people signed up to speak. The first one is Mary Louise Embry.
Good morning. I'm Mary Louise Embry. I live at 413 Bethany Drive. I'm here today representing BBLA. I am a board member, and I also serve as the Communications and Advocacy Director for BBLA. We sent a letter that I think the council all has now. I'm just going to read it for the record. It's very short. And then the comments that we sent on the actual ordinance, you also have a copy of those. And the author of the comments, one of our board members, Chip Smith, is here, and he can address any of the specific comments. The BBLA is in support of the town's efforts to reduce the impervious surfaces throughout Bethany Beach. Revising appropriate sections of the town ordinances will have a positive effect on alleviating seasonal or storm-based flooding. These town actions indicate purposeful steps in addressing Bethany's flooding issues and sets in motion further steps, such as the possible bladder dam. Attached, as I mentioned, is we have the marked up copy of the proposed ordinance, and it provides suggested clarifications of the ordinance language, and BBLA would like your consideration of those changes. BBLA appreciates the work of the Planning and Zoning Commission on this important issue and the town's productive actions. And that's signed by our president, Kathy Sierra. She's the president of the board of directors.
Thank you, Mrs. Embry. Any questions? Mrs. Embry? Okay. Thank you very much. The next speaker we have is Chip Smith.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all very much. I think this is a...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. My name is Chip Smith. I live at 428 Wiegand Lane in Bethany Beach. And it's an area that suffers from a lot of nuisance flooding due to impervious surfaces. Our neighborhood is about half and half, but you can certainly tell where impervious surfaces create more water in our streets. So I just wanted to point out that I made some suggested edits that were sent in along with our letter. We 100% support this. We think this is a great move, and don't take any of the comments in any way as opposition to this. I think you guys have done a fantastic job, and I'm so glad to see that this is moving forward. As a person who retired from 43 years of government and wrote regulations, rules, and all that sort of thing, I'm suggesting that, and so that people don't sort of abuse your intent here and find ways to circumvent what you're trying to do, maybe some changes would help tighten up the ordinance, make some distinctions between different kinds of natural areas. They're in people's minds, some people will think of natural ecological succession as different from managed habitat, and both are pervious, but they're different. So people might find ways around your ordinance if we don't make that distinction. I had a question under purpose, and I won't go into that here because that's just something for you to consider. I got a little confused on the percentages, but I'm not a math major, so that could be it. But I think having percentages is probably the best way that you can go. Most of our lots are pretty small. It's easy to estimate those percentages. And then at the very end, I think I suggested that we add concrete, asphalt, and pavers, specifically mentioned as no longer being allowed on residential lots, at least over the percentage that you all recommend. And then last, I forgot to mention, under natural area, I didn't see wetlands and marshes. I thought it might be important to include those habitat types specifically so that people can't think they can just go ahead, because wetlands and marshes aren't specifically mentioned, they can go ahead and put an impervious surface over them. So that's it. If you have any questions, or if there's anything I can do to discuss later on, give me a call or send me an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions for Mr. Smith? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. The next person who signed up is Tomhigdon.
I thought there was a sign-up sheet for the people that were going to be here.
Oh.
I didn't have anything particular to say, except that I suppose you do, as long as everything...
Yeah. If you could use the microphone, we'd like to make sure that we hear everything you say, sir.
My name is Tomhigdon Jr., and I live at 689 Fenwood Court. Had a presence here in Bethany Beach since '84, not at that location, but at others. And I was here during really what I think were the golden years of Bethany Beach. I support your regulation that you guys are working on. There's a whole lot of things that I think need to be addressed with reasonable consideration and reasonable regulation. That's about all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Those are the people who are here. Does anyone else who didn't sign up have something they'd like to say or question? Okay. Anybody on council? All right, I'd like to remind everyone that the record is open to receive comments, written comments, either by email or by regular mail until May 15th. And so we welcome everyone, please. We just want to be sure this is widely disseminated and that everyone has an opportunity to comment.
I'm sorry, I didn't mention this in my presentation, but one of the notes that we got was about replacing an existing paver driveway, or actually not replacing it, but pulling up the pavers and re-leveling it and setting it back down. I suspect that that would not fall under the 50% rule and would be allowable under this code. That would be a good thing to bring to our building inspector, Susan Frederick, ahead of time, talk with her about and make sure. And in the worst case scenario, there's obviously a variance process if that needed to be, if that needed to go through that route. But
Thank you, Mr. Edmondson. Okay, so hearing no further comment, I hereby close this hearing. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for those who tuned in. Have a good day.
Wow, 20 minutes.